Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here as always by the man who just put his entire life savings on the U.S. to win the World Cup. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good. I did not bet on that, but I did bet on Ecuador to win today, so cashed a little money. Shout out to that. But yeah, doing pretty good. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Fun week for me. I didn't have to no stress of watching my team play. Got to just enjoy stress-free football. It's always great. Bye weeks, kind of bye week for the fans too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to kind of re-energize, regroup your team. You had a talking to with Brady this week, I'm sure, and, got him focused for the upcoming games.
Mm-hmm.
Are we starting off with Grey Cup? Talking Grey Cup?
No.
Oh,
I
well,
think I'm gonna, we don't need to spend too much on this because we don't want all our viewers to go away right away. But I think I'll, I think I'm gonna try to get into the World Cup this year.
you're going to get into it? I mean, it's fun. It's always fun to
Mm-hmm.
watch. I mean, there's a whole, backstory to this World Cup that's kind of
Right.
ridiculous, but
Mm.
I mean, the games are on now, so you can enjoy that.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a big Messi is the GOAT guy, so I'm interested in seeing how that goes.
Well, I mean, he might be. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more maybe touch on that at the end. Also, we had a super chat before the show even started by Victor saying, "Love the recaps. These videos are great for work on Mondays. I'm sure many people watch these at work on Mondays. Shout out to Mondays workers. Yes, I appreciate that. Also, Team Kyle, no watch. Don't worry, Kyle is here. Understand, Team Kyle all the way. Yes, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, shout out to all the people watching on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to all of our fans. Our fans are too nice. You guys are the best. There's a couple
Yeah."
of you I have questions about, but most of you are pretty nice.
Yeah, I think so as well. A lot to get to, a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Let's just jump into it. As always, starting off with the Sunday night game. Great game. Never disappoints seemingly with these two teams. I thought, for a second, it looked like, oh man, we're going to see the Chargers all the way back with kind of, a healthy receiving core. Then Mike Williams went down again. That was frustrating. I still don't know how healthy Keenan Allen is, but he had, that big catch late on. I mean, some of these Justin Herbert throws were just incredible.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were talking about why don't the Chargers throw the ball down the field more? This was, coaching malpractice. I saw on Twitter by the Chargers from what they did. But part of it's like, well, it's easier to do it now when you have Keenan Allen and when you had Mike Williams for a stretch of it. Like that makes it easier if it's them or if it's them setting up like Josh Palmer making the play. But at the end of the day, I don't know. Sort of towards the end of the game, I just felt like there was like a shot of like Justin Herbert looking frustrated. And it just feels like we have all these challengers, but it still just feels like it's the Chiefs league, at least in the AFC, right?
It definitely feels like it right now. They were impressive in this one. Did you have any doubt that Patrick Mahomes was going to win this game when they went down?
Sure. I mean, I feel like there's always revisionist history. We all knew that, yeah, I mean, every now, it's not like he has always converted on these situations, but you feel good about it.
That's fair. There were some bizarre things I thought in this game. I agree with you though. There was like 3 or 4 Justin Herbert throws that were just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some that I'm sure he wished he would have had back. But I think overall, I mean, it was a bit of a tease seeing Mike Williams and Keenan Allen out there. Then all of a sudden they weren't out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keenan Allen comes back, and I mean, he had the back-breaking fumble, but made up for it with that huge catch. I mean, just across the board, it was a weird game for the Chargers. But down the stretch, like, I get they like this Derwin James Travis Kelce matchup, but I don't like it when Travis Kelce has 6 catches, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns, and they throw him back out there. I feel like at the end of the games, especially when a team gets into the red zone, that is the opportune time to play zone, isn't it? Because it's very condensed field, it's very hard to find passing lanes, and this Chargers team theoretically, with Brandon Staley's defense, likes a lot of zone matchups. Then all of a sudden they throw this man scheme out there at the end of the game where James is caught chasing Travis Kelce across the field. They throw a little rub route in there. He's not catching him. Kelce walks into the end zone for a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, part of it too is though, it's just, no matter what you throw at Travis Kelce, you're gonna have a hard time.
That's true. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
agree. I just feel like I'm betting on, I don't know. It seems like it's a tough bet to bet on covering him in man like that in that
Mm-hmm.
situation. I know he's great against zone too, but I mean, I just feel like there's a more winning play than that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Well, so Kadarius Toney gets hurt again in this game. Kind of the story of his career as he, will show up, flash for a minute and then immediately, we won't hear from him for a month. So we'll see how that goes this time. Also, Chris Jones, 2 sacks in this one. I mean, we got to start putting Chris Jones in the Defensive Player of the Year case. I know that he has 7 sacks now. I believe it's 7 sacks now. It might have been into this game, but a couple of more sacks that could at least maybe help his case. I mean, the guy's. He's top 5 in pressures as a defensive tackle. He has a higher pass rush win rate than Aaron Donald right now. I mean, he's playing at such a high level.
Yeah, I mean, he's been terrific. That last sack, too, was just an unbelievable play. Herbert thought he had the ability to step up into that pocket, and then Jones just closed it. He just shut him down there. He's had an unbelievable season, and it seems like, especially like the big thing too is like Mahomes goes down and takes these leads. He's done it a couple times this season. And then the defense absolutely just shuts them down. And it starts with this defensive line. It's just like all of a sudden when Dunlap and Jones need to make 3 plays, they make 3 plays and they really come up big for this defense. I don't think it's a great defense overall, but they can really step up and that star power can influence the game. And he is one of those guys, especially. There's a lot of guys I think that are up for the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. I heard it today. It's going to be brought up because he has 13 sacks or whatever it is. Someone said Matthew Judon should be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
He's in the conversation.
There's a lot of guys. I still think, despite the record, Max Crosby should too. So there's a lot of guys I think right now are definitely in the conversation.
Yeah. Why don't we move on? Let's go to, speaking of defensive performances in general, we're going to talk about the Bill Belichick game to end all Bill Belichick games. I think this has got to be the best Bill Belichick game ever, right? A 3-3 defensive struggle that ends with a walk-off punt return touchdown against the Jets for a victory. I mean, this is Bill Belichick's masterpiece.
It was something. It was a tough watch. It was a tough watch. I mean,
I loved it.
The defense was, this is a phenomenal defensive performance. That should be started. I mean, this is a 103 total yards of offenses. Quite honestly, sensational for the defense, for the Patriots defense. I actually thought the offense moved the ball a little bit, but every time it just seemed like, once again, every time things started going, it seemed like every drive they would have 2 or 3 plays, and then all of a sudden it was a penalty, a negative rushing play, or a sack would move them back. And this offense just does not have a play in its playbook that's designed to get 15 yards. They converted 1 3rd and long, which involves like Ramondre Stevenson breaking 5 tackles on the way for like a 16-yard gain for a first down. Outside of that, they just don't have downfield passing. And I know the crosswind in this game was ridiculous, and I think Zach Wilson, made an excuse for himself about it. But it just seemed like that they don't have an ability to get the ball downfield, and it was very frustrating to watch that. That being said, this defense is one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. It helped them pull this one out. And then, Marcus Jones, great play at the end of the game. He was drafted specifically as a return specialist, and he looks special doing that.
Yeah, incredible thing there. I like this. Eric Cartman in the chat saying Zach Wilson had a great game, but once again, the Jets defense didn't come through. Yeah, really tough. I always hate when you are able to tie the game in that one, not able to come through. I mean, this was the story of this game. So I've been hearing a lot of, I feel like literally every time that the Jets have played the Patriots, the story at the end of it has been Zach Wilson has, completely struggled. Is it time to give up on Zach Wilson? That's been the narrative after every single thing. Zach Wilson's been struggling. This was another not great game from Zach Wilson. I didn't think that this was a terrible Zach Wilson performance either. Again, part of that is the low expectations we have with Zach Wilson at this point. Obviously, only scoring 3 points, you have to be better than that. But it also felt like, there's one, it was a 3rd down and 3, and it just run it up the middle for where there was nothing there. It kind of just made me feel like if this is what we're doing on 3rd and 3, you kind of do have to just get the guy off the field then. If you can't even trust him in that situation, when are you going to trust him?
Well, they don't trust him. They definitely don't. That was the problem. But at the same time, I don't know. I can't blame them for not trusting him anymore.
Sure.
I watched them
get him off the field.
Yeah.
If you can't trust, you're not going to win. If you're not going to do anything, if you're having a quarterback that you just completely do not even trust.
I agree. But he also had 2 passes that should have been picked off today. Patriots secondary guys dropped him. Mm-hmm. He also had, it's just there's simple things I don't know why this guy makes simple passes look extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm. He had another bad miss in this one.
Yeah, he had a couple bad misses in this game. And it's like when he's looking at the check down, he doesn't throw the check down. He takes the sack. When he throws the check down, there's two guys on the guy who's catching the check down, and it's like a negative play all of a sudden because of it. I don't know we have to see the all 22 footage to make a fair assumption on a lot of this stuff, but it just seems like every time he's thrown the ball to the flat, there's two guys on the guy who's trying to catch the ball. And every time he's trying to throw the ball downfield, there's guys covered. Does he think he's thrown to the other team on purpose or something? I just don't understand exactly what goes through his head sometimes, it seems like, because it just seems bad all around when he throws the football. And I do think he should come out. I do think Joe Flacco, Mike White, whoever it is should play because, it may not be better, but at least it's changing something because it doesn't seem like – it seemed like every time they came off the field, every Jets receiver basically sagged their shoulders. Like they're just that frustrated, it seems like at this point. The body language doctors would not like this game for the Jets. Sure. And this is a team that legitimately could make the playoffs because as good as this defensive performance was the Patriots, it was phenomenal. It was equally almost as terrific of a defensive performance from the Jets. They benefited from 2 missed field goals in that crazy wind, but it was a good defensive performance from the Jets. And this defense is elite. This defense is a playoff level defense. And I don't think it's the same situation as the Patriots where they don't have the dudes. I think they have dudes on offense. They're just not executing.
I completely disagree. I think this offense is terrible. I think this is a really bad offense. Zach Wilson sucks, but Kyle, guys were not getting open in this game. And, Denzel Mims had a drop in this one. The running game was a mess as well. I just think that this was just, I think that we look for simple solutions in this stuff. If Joe Flacco is there, what's the final score of this game? Do they score 10 points?
Yeah, I don't know about that. It might be 6-3 in there, a little more conservative on that punt. Right. I don't know. It just seems like I think Garrett Wilson had a couple moments in this game. I think that there's more opportunities in what they have. This is supposedly supposed to be the San Francisco style offense that we all love, right? Mm-hmm. So why is this the one team that can't scheme guys open? Nobody gets open on the Patriots this season. It's not happening. The only teams that have beaten the Patriots this season have had mobile quarterbacks who can scramble and extend plays. In your conventional drop back offense that you have 2.5 seconds, maybe 3 seconds on a good blocking down to throw, nobody can get open on this Patriots defense. So, I think you have to also take that into account with this game. I think I've seen games where the Jets offense can get open.
Here's another thought, too. Do we got to just start using Zach Wilson as a runner? It should that we see, you sort of bring up, think about the Bears, I'm trying to figure out maybe a Daniel Jones situation where you can turn sort of a bust into at least a competent quarterback. Could that be a solution? It's just a little, have him run some designed runs in this game. It feels like that could have been a strategy.
He's not a bad athlete. He had a couple good runs in this game, but
he's no Justin Fields, but
yeah, exactly. That's a problem. But at the same time,
he can move at least.
Yeah, I get it. I think there's a conversation. They need to figure out what he is. They need to figure out what he likes to do. I think is the first thing because it doesn't seem like that he's comfortable back there, right?
Yeah, I think you just move on. I think you just honestly. I don't know. I probably don't actually. I think you give him another week. I think you give him one more week. They're playing Chicago next week, right? Bad defense. See what he can do. And if he struggles that week, even if it's just another whatever performance, I think then you move on. Because we know he sucks against the Patriots. He has looked bad, not against the Patriots, but against the Patriots, it's always just way worse. So maybe you just say, at least, it's worth mentioning the Jets are 5-0 when Zach Wilson's starting and they're not playing the Patriots. That is worth mentioning.
Yeah.
It's not because of him, but it's just Joe Flacco's 1-2 this season, right? And the one win was the crazy Browns game where they came back from down, double digits in the final 2 minutes.
Yeah. They need to trade for Ryan Fitzpatrick. They need to bring back Ryan Fitzpatrick for only Patriots games.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good move. I also think, again, it would have been interesting if they ended up getting the Tyreek Hill trade because they were in on that. Didn't work out. I don't know. Interesting. It's a tough loss for the Jets. Is this, Kyle, Patriots question, because you're the Patriots guy. We're spending a bit on this game, but I think maybe this is, I feel like your tone's going to say no. Could you argue this is the biggest Patriots win after Tom Brady has left?
I wouldn't say the biggest one. I think it's a nice win, and I think it's going to be key for the season, especially. I mean, I do think this team can make the playoffs. The schedule's tough down the stretch, but I think there's winnable games here. I think there's enough here now when I look at the schedule to potentially get to 9 because I think they can. I know it's on the road. I think they can beat the Cardinals in Vegas on the road, and then they need one from Minnesota, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Miami, which is going to be a loss. So I don't even know why I'm saying that. We can't beat Miami. And then at Buffalo. We need to get one win out of that basically to get to 9. So I think it's going to be a hugely beneficial win. I just don't know. I don't think it's the biggest one. I still think there was bigger games last year.
Yeah. But 'cause I was just trying to think, like the one I thought of, like honestly, the one that jumped out of my head last year was the one where they threw the ball 3 times and still won.
Yeah, I mean that's an iconic game, of course.
Right. Yeah. No. Crazy game. This is an iconic game too, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
this was this. We'll look back on this more fondly than when we actually watched the live. That's definitely for sure. It was. The one thing I will say is I've been preaching this defense is way better this season, and that I think they had good defensive numbers, but I think some of it was kind of BS. And you definitely saw it by the end of the season when Josh Allen scored on like 9 straight possessions against us or whatever the ridiculous number was. So I thought that defense was a little BS. This defense is fast. They cover. And it just seems like it's really hard for any pass defense to have success unless you can buy more time, unless you can scramble and perform off script. I think it's almost impossible to beat this Patriots team straight up. Now, the tough thing is that a lot of the teams they play, especially at the top, when you look at Buffalo, Kansas City, that kind of stuff, they have quarterbacks who can perform off script. But I do think that against a lot of these other teams, they're going to kind of overwhelm teams with this coverage unit because it's very hard to find openings.
Yeah. It should be fun to see, again, every team in that division. So interesting. Let's talk about a very fascinating game as well. The Eagles survive against the Colts. Starting to wonder, this is definitely a narrative buster for a second. But we're going to, the Eagles were on the verge of being this year's Cardinals, starting off 8-0 and then struggling. The Colts, we were about to start doing the, Jeff Saturday Coach of the Year conversation had they been able to pull this one off. For a second, the Colts looked really good. Really, the Eagles just beat themselves a lot in this game. They made a lot of mistakes and finally were able to cut down on that. It's very similar to Washington. This time they were able to complete the comeback, though, and win. So I think a big win for the Eagles. If not standings wise or anything, which it also is that, but also just mentally of being able to overcome adversity here.
Yeah, I think the one thing, like, I didn't see what his prognosis is. I know he's on IR. I don't know if he's supposed to come back this season. I think this Dallas Goddard injury is going to be, I think I said that, Goddard. Anyway.
I would say Goddard. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but that's how I say it.
Goddard. I think this Dallas Goddard injury is going to be kind of big because he's a real tertiary option for this team. And I think Quez Watkins is a decent guy. I think he's a decent receiver, but I don't think he's a legitimate third option that you can consistently rely upon. And I just think that's going to be really tough for this passing game. And I think it faltered a little bit this week because they didn't have that third option. Now, I think Jalen Hurts responded in the second half of this game, played well down the stretch, got them into position to win. But I do think that's something to monitor over these next few weeks. But I agree with you. It was a kind of, they messed around a little bit, but that's kind of been what the Eagles have been all season. Like, they don't, outside of a couple games, they don't really dominate teams. And I think it's okay to say, hey, I have some questions about this team because they haven't dominated a lot of teams. And they almost blew it in this one because of that too. So I think it's a question to have about this team going forward.
I had a thought. Are the Eagles exactly who we thought they'd be heading into this season? It's just that their record was better. Like, is it possible that they're just a team where, we figured going in, okay, to have 2 really good receiving options, their offense will play better, their defense could work better, and I think their defense has been better than we probably expected. But as a whole, is it possible that this is a team that's still might be at the top of the NFC because of the weak NFC? I think still deserves to be the favorite. But like you said, maybe we did overhype a bit because of their record.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things that this secondary, and obviously they made some trades late in the offseason too that helped in signings. But this secondary, I think, is a lot better than we thought it'd be. I think Hurts is still better than we thought he'd be. And I think everything else is kind of what we thought. Now, the 2 big things to me is that like you said, the teams that we thought would be at the top of the NFC with them are obviously not there. And then the second thing is like you look at their schedule, and I think it's Eagles fans get mad at this. I think it's a pretty soft schedule this season. But the
Mhm.
thing is that their toss-up games this year, the games that we thought might be close, like Minnesota based on what they performed, the Cowboys based on what they performed, they've won those games. They won those toss-up games that could have been. I mean, if they were, would you think any differently of this team if it was 7-3 instead of 9-1? Just lost a couple of those games that they had earlier in the year.
Right. Probably a little bit, but I think they would still probably be, at that point, I don't know what I would think exactly, but I think there's a very real chance I would still have them as the favorite to win the NFC then.
Yeah, I mean I mean I definitely think that's a reasonable take, but that's just because it just seems like people in the NFC are kind of week by week unconvincing. Like I think they've been consistently solid, and I think they have really good parts of this team. I think this pass rush is unbelievable. I think the way they cover is unbelievable, and I think they have good receivers, but like I think that there's consistencies with the Eagles that are good. I just think that there's any given week anybody can beat anybody in the NFC right now.
Yeah. We also have Super Chat, bad Twitter take of the week. Miami is just good enough to beat bad teams. Which teams do you think are just good enough to only beat bad teams? Well, yeah, not the Eagles, as we talked about. Who's the team that's probably not Miami either, I would say. They beat the Bills. I would put that
Yeah.
as I don't know. Maybe like the Giants.
The Giants are definitely in the conversation.
They
I mean,
have beaten some good teams, but I still
yeah,
feel like they're in that area.
their fans don't really like us, but Tennessee's schedule is basically bad teams. I mean, they're in the AFC South.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like I could see them. I could see them beating a good team.
That's fair. I
Hmm.
don't know. I'm not betting on it, but I could see it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's fast. Maybe the Falcons. Falcons are a good one.
Yeah, that's another good one. They can
Hmm.
also lose to every bad team too, is the problem.
Right. Yeah. I think so. We had some Vikings, some Cowboys in the chat. Yeah. As for the Colts, I mean, it was so funny because I'm like, oh man, Jonathan Taylor's back. I still felt like Jonathan Taylor looked a lot better in this game, but he still only had 3.8 yards per carry. So I mean, this rushing attack is just not. I mean, again, against the Eagles, that's not bad, given what they can do at times. But it's still like this has just not been the Colts team not been the Colts offense that was advertised.
Yeah, I mean, he got off to a killer start in this game. Um, I think he got off to a really good start. It just seemed like the Colts kind of flamed out in this game, right? Like I think they came out of this game with a ton of energy. They looked good to start this game, and I mean, were they shut out in the second half, or was it 3 points?
They scored six. They scored 3 points in the third. They actually scored in every quarter. They scored 6 points in the second half.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, it just seemed like they could not establish anything in the second half of this game. I thought they looked good to start, and then it just kind of was nothing for the rest of the game outside of a couple, short drives. One
Yeah.
capitalizing on a fumble.
Let's have this chat. They hate the Lions too. Two weirdos in their room with biased opinions. Do we hate the Lions?
When have we ever said we hate the Lions?
Yeah, I feel like we've all. I feel like you've definitely been very. If people are saying we hate the Titans. I feel like I've been very pro Titans since like week 3, and you've been very pro Lions forever.
I don't know, man.
I
People
don't
like
care
to be
enough about the
excited.
Titans to hate them.
That's fair.
Why would I be like, oh, those Titans? They bother me so much.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anything about them either, but it's okay.
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, I don't. I hate the Saints. That's the one team I hate. Every other team I really don't care about.
Yeah, I mean, there's teams on my hate list. You know, you could
Yeah.
probably guess I'm a Patriots fan. It's okay.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Any final thoughts on this one?
What game were we talking about? Oh yeah. No, I'm good on this one.
It's on the screen, Kyle.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it. That's our show. That's all we have.
Yeah. I mean, do we want to talk about the Lions now?
Sure. Let's go to the red hot Detroit Lions, who
2 in a row.
yeah, the team that we hate, the team that we apparently we're red hot now, having to talk about our least favorite team, the Lions, winning this one of the it's 3 in a row, right?
Oh yeah, 3 in a row. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I do
So
hate the Lions.
yeah, I guess so. Trying to diminish their accomplishment. This is the weird game. right? Because it felt like these are two teams that are, I think, heading into this a week where, like, despite the massive difference in record, these are actually two pretty similarly talented teams here.
Yeah.
The Giants were only 3-point favorites in this one, and then the Giants lost the turnover battle 3-0. So it does feel like that's kind of a big reason why. I mean, the Giants actually outgained the Lions in this football game, 5.7 yards to 5.2. So it didn't feel like maybe the domination the score sheet would say, but Lions were still the better team. They got those takeaways. Somehow Aiden Hutchinson had no interceptions throughout his entire life in football and has 2 in the NFL. That's a weird thing that's happened. So hey, you get credit for getting the turnovers, and the Lions red hot right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he keeps doing that, that'll be a pretty good thing to add to his arsenal. He was good again in this game. I thought, the Lions, like you said, made a couple big plays early. They took advantage. They got touchdowns. And I mean, as who was it said? Eric Cartman here. Hey, Eric. Giants fraudulent question mark. No, the Giants aren't fraudulent. They are exactly who we thought they were. Statistically, this is who the Giants are, which is a good but not great team. And they played, or I guess, a kind of average but not great team. And they played like an average team. And, if you shut down Saquon, this offense is going to struggle at times. And they did struggle at times in this game. I thought Jones bounced back a little bit and played some better minutes in the second half, but it was just too little too late. They were down 21-6, 17-6 as soon as they blinked.
Yeah, that really is that's the issue there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you said they're not. I almost feel like the Giants aren't good enough to be fraudulent, right? Like, we never thought that they were this, kind of like you said. I don't think we ever put them in that category just yet, and that's okay. Again, your job is to win football games. You've done a pretty decent job of doing that so far. Kyle, I gotta say, there was a point when seeing the Lions play the Bills on Thanksgiving, I'm thinking, what's happening? I'm excited to watch that game.
Yeah, it should be a good one. I mean, the Lions are definitely a competitive football team. I mean, it's such a Jekyll and Hyde team too, because it's like they're either going to score 31 points or they're going to score like 12 points. And it doesn't seem like there's an in-between right now with them. But when they're rolling, and they can be a good offense in rhythm.
I think Dan Campbell's a big winner in all this, right? I mean, there was some rumblings when things weren't going well of Dan Campbell is he just not cut out for this? This is is all he can do be a motivator. You can't do much else type of thing. I think that for Dan Campbell, getting him another year here is probably exactly what they need. I do feel like the Lions this year, they're frisky. They're in a playoff spot, right? Or not in a playoff spot, but they're in playoff contention right now. They're in the hunt, so to speak. But and they're also second in their division, interestingly enough. But I do feel like this is setting up nicely for next year. The rebuild's going smoothly.
Yeah, I think it is. I think they have some things obviously they still have to address. But I mean, they're winning football games. I mean, they're going to be in a good spot, I think, going forward. And it seems like this Hutchinson pick is a home run. I think they've knocked that out of the park. So yeah, I think that they're doing some good stuff right now, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do. So here's my question: is this the best Thanksgiving slate of games in like the last 10 years?
It's a good one. I mean, on paper it looks very Bills, Lions. It's Giants, Cowboys, and then the Patriots, Vikings on the Thursday night game. I mean, those are three. I mean, if this was a regular Sunday, those would be like the 3 games I'm most interested in watching. Like, I'm looking at the whole list. Those might be the 3 games I'm most interested in watching the whole week. I think they probably are.
You're not interested in Chargers at Cardinals?
I guess a little. I mean, that's not the worst game of the week.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely is in the conversation, I think, and especially, I mean, a lot of it is that this line seems interesting at least, and they can compete with anybody. So yeah, this should be definitely a fun Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think so as well. Let's move on. And we will talk about that on Wednesday, by the way. Little plug for the next, day before Thanksgiving. We'll preview all that stuff. Assuming that you can do, we should have off air, but you could do that Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, just figured it's the day before Thanksgiving. But yeah, okay, got through that one. A lot of interesting games left. Bears Falcons did not expect this to be so early on in the show, but hey, this was a fun game. Once again, we have the Bears, the masters of the 3-point loss at this point. And that feels again, this is it's the great Justin Fields game, because it really is like, you can easily say Justin Fields sucks in this one if you only want to pay attention to his bad plays and not pay attention to his good ones. You can easily say Justin Fields is awesome if you only want to pay attention to his good plays. It's another one of those Justin Fields performances of, I think the good outweighed the bad for the most part. Not quite as much as we had seen in previous weeks, but I still think this was a good game from him. It's just another one of those weird performances of, like, the passing statistics don't look great, but the rushing statistics do look good. I mean, 18 carries in this one. Wild stuff from Fields. And, again, they were able to have some success now. Out of their 4 scoring drives, 3 of them, they started the ball in Atlanta territory. So that definitely helped things. But there were still some nice plays. There were some, just a few, like, unbelievable Justin Fields plays. And then there was, again, that big miss throw on the deep shot. That one hurts, obviously. But as a whole, that's kind of, to me, this game is Justin Fields. That's the most important, most interesting thing to me.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the next step has been taken for Fields, right? He seems to be processing things better.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is establishing consistency, because I would say right now, he is certainly, I mean, not even on a game per game basis, it's almost on a per play basis. He is certainly the most high floor, low ceiling player I think I've ever seen at quarterback. Like, it seems like anything could be a defensive touchdown or an offensive touchdown on any given play.
Right.
And you're just flipping the coin and hoping for the best. And yeah, I mean, he made, you could go to 3 or 4 plays and just say, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Or you can go to 3 or 4 plays and say, oh no, what is he doing? So yeah, I mean, there's definitely conversations that you can have about him, but I thought it was mostly good, except for, the interception down the stretch. But yeah, I thought it was mostly good from him. And yeah, I mean, he had one play, he had like a 3rd and 12 play where he just like kept buying time, and I thought he was going to run for it. All of a sudden he just pulls the ball out, throws it, and it was an easy first down completion. It's just like, I mean, there's times where you watch and it's like, how do you defend this guy?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. There's times when, like, a defensive lineman's like lunging at him, and he's like runs through it like they're like made out of like paper or something. Like, it doesn't even like slow him down at all. He's legitimately, he's built like Cam Newton, but a better athlete. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely fun to watch. I don't know if it's going to translate to winning success yet, but it's definitely fun to watch.
Right. He's earned a 3rd year. He's earned a 3rd year, but and then you hope in the 3rd year he takes that last step to becoming a complete quarterback, which he certainly could. The Falcons are, again, very much in playoff contention here at 5-6. Marcus Mariota, continues to live to see another day. It feels like if they lost this one, it might have been it. He was able to pull out the victory. Again, I don't have too much to add about the Falcons. I didn't think they really did that much of anything. I guess the main thing is Cordell Patterson, again, worth his contract just for what he can do with the kick returns alone. Great, good for him, setting the record most kick return touchdowns. And what's even more remarkable is how so much more difficult to return kicks now than it ever has been. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, he's one of the best to ever do it. That's for sure. I mean, there was debate I think on Twitter today, is he the best ever, or I think it was one of those dumb graphic things where it says pick one, and it showed like 4 different kick returners, and he was one of them. And he's definitely probably one of the best ever. Him and Devin Hester, Dante Hall, I mean, all those guys were special, and he's definitely just continues to prove it again and again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's who's the GOAT? I don't know. I don't study kick return. I guess you have to give it to him for kick return because he's the he has the most touchdowns there. Then give it to Hester for punt returns. I think that's the typical take, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really like Dante Hall as a kid, so I'm a little biased on that one, but I mean, the numbers definitely point to Patterson being a lot better. And like you said, it's harder now.
Are we taking the Falcons seriously at all as a legitimate playoff team or no?
No. I mean, they might end up a playoff team. They're the playoff team I'm definitely going to bet against the most. So I guess that's the one thing we take them seriously for. But we'll see if they get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I might take them over the Giants at this point, but they got the Lions in there now too. So some interesting stuff.
Whoever's the 7th seed, I'm probably betting against you, unless it's the 49ers.
Right. That's the weird thing. Is like, I think the 49ers are like the team that you have to jump, but like they're the one most likely to win. So just an odd situation in the NFC. Let's move on, I think.
What about
Go ahead.
I'm dead ass saying thoughts on Kyle Trask.
I think I like Cordero Patterson as a better kick returner more than Kyle Trask.
I think I agree too.
Yeah. All right. That's, appreciate all the questions in the chat. Kyle, what the hell happened to the Vikings in this one? 40-3. The Vikings somehow are 8-2 and have a negative point differential. Just one of the craziest stats. Absurd. What happened here? I don't even know what to break down here. Just everything went wrong. Somehow Tony Pollard completely went off in this one. He was the leading receiver and leading rusher in this game. So, again, this is honestly, I do have to say, I guess maybe we'll start there. It feels like this is the Cowboys offense that they want to run. Of if Tony Pollard is the lead back, Elliott can kind of come in, and they had the same amount of carries, but it felt like Pollard got the majority of the snaps. I could be wrong about that. Let Pollard kind of be the main guy, let Elliott work off of him. This feels like this is how you can have this offense work.
Yeah, and I think, this team, even during those Cooper Rush games, this team established itself and established its identity by being able to run the ball. And I think we saw that again where they established their identity in this game, running the ball, putting it on the ground, and establishing that part of the game. They ran the ball 40 times in this game. The efficiency wasn't great, but I think they're going to have better games going forward. But, it opens up their passing game a whole lot. And you definitely saw that. I mean, Dak was borderline perfect in this game because it was just easy passes from there because they were all focused on the run and then running the ball so much. And Tony Pollard basically getting 5 yards touch that took a huge part of the offense. And so the defense adjusted. And then when the Cowboys dropped back the pass, the Vikings seemingly had no chance. And they were able to manufacture explosive plays, setting up with the run game.
Yeah. This is, again, bizarre game. I mean, what's crazy is there's a big play differential in this one. The the total plays, Dallas had 70, whereas the Vikings just 54. We also saw the yardage totals wildly different. The Cowboys, this is almost even more impressive than the score. 458 yards to 183 total yards in this game. A huge jump there. Why couldn't the Vikings get anything going offensively? To me, that's the weirder question. Dalvin Cook had 6.5 yards per carry. Granted, they weren't really focused on stopping the run for most of that game. Dallas wasn't. But still, it feels weird that, Kirk Cousins in the Blaine Gabbert zone under 5 yards per attempt in this one.
Yeah, he wasn't good in this game. I don't know. This just kind of felt like a letdown game for me, right? Not to make excuses for them because they played terribly. But, coming off an emotional win like that, it was just about as crazy as it gets. This felt like just a letdown spot. And they got to play Thursday night. Not that the Cowboys don't either. But, I don't know. It just felt like that kind of spot for me.
This has to be one of those games where you're happy you're playing on Thursday, right? You want to play, the Vikings probably want to play tomorrow if they could.
Yeah, kind of regroup from this one and dust it off. I think that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. It just seemed like a very bizarre game. It seemed like they were basically out of it by the second quarter and not really interested in competing. And then Dallas just kept pouring it on. At one point it just got out of hand. And yeah, it just felt like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And then every time Dallas had an opportunity to put their foot on their throat, they did. And the Vikings just felt out of it. I don't know. I still feel pretty good about the Vikings. I think I've always felt a little better about Dallas and Minnesota, and I think I still do. I think you were probably more pro Minnesota than I was, but I don't know if I'm coming away and saying, okay, Dallas is a significantly better team than Minnesota every time they play, and if they played a 5-game series, Dallas would win every time because that's basically how this game would paint the picture. I just think that they weren't ready to play this game.
Is this concerning, though, for the Vikings that we've now seen them only lose twice, but those 2 losses have been going up against good competition and getting absolutely smoked? We've seen the floor of this team a couple times now. For a team that has, you have Super Bowl aspirations here at 8-2. This is concerning.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a reason for a little bit of concern. They haven't looked good against, theoretically, there's probably a high chance they're playing Philadelphia or Dallas to make it to the Super Bowl, right? I would put good money on that maybe happening. So
yeah,
if you're going to look this bad against both of them, I think that's something about. That being said, I think that this got a little bit out of hand. I think that they're going to look better in a rematch. But that being said, can they beat either of these teams and these good defenses that can get after them at the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, it also you're right. It was one of those games. It's not it's concerning, but I do think about when the Buccaneers lost to the Saints 38-3 in the regular season, ended up beating them in the playoffs. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're screwed, but definitely a tough loss and a great win for the Cowboys. Want to move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I guess we can go with let's go to, this is a more interesting game. Took very early for the Thursday night game on the show, but I think it's warranted here. Again, had some clunkers this week, but also, this was I think an important game. We saw kind of the death of the Packers a little bit. Rodgers got a lot of criticism for his performance in this one. Christian Watson still with 2 more touchdowns. So Watson has 5 touchdowns in a 2-game stretch, but the Packers, fall to the Titans. The Packers were actually favored in this game, weirdly, but after this loss, it's not, they're not dead, but they almost have to run the table here if they're going to, have a shot.
Yeah, and they're not going to run the table. I'm calling them dead. I mean, I guess there are some favorable games here, but then they also still have to beat Philadelphia, Miami. They're not, they probably have to win at least one of those games and Minnesota too. Sorry. They probably got to win all, 2 of the 3 between Philadelphia, Miami, Minnesota, and win out the rest of the games. I don't see it happening. I think they're dead. This secondary freaking sucks, man. Absolutely abysmal. I can't believe how bad this defense is right now. And I can't get over how bad it is because we say it every week, and every week it just blows me away how bad this defense is again. I mean, Tannehill's a good quarterback. We've been pro Tannehill on this podcast for multiple years now. There's no situation where I think Tannehill should go 22 for 27, 333, 2 tutties. Like,
Crazy.
It's just like he dominated this game. He legitimately dominated this game. Henry was really good too, but this was a Ryan Tannehill show. He absolutely outplayed them. Treylon Burks was awesome in this game. I just can't believe how bad this defense is and how much they got dominated in this game by what I think is a solid Tennessee offense. I don't think they should be running rampant and have 11 yards per pass. That's definitely not the Titans offense I expected.
Yeah, and we saw Treylon Burks kind of came into his own a little bit in this one. We saw him have that big catch to kind of ice it towards the end there. Kyle, Derrick Henry had a passer rating of 118 in this one.
And he threw more than 1 pass, didn't he?
Yeah, he threw 2 passes.
Unbelievable.
I mean, this is that's again, we thought there'd be offensive struggles heading into the season for the Packers. The defensive kind of collapse has been very tough. For the Titans, I do think what's interesting about them is I do think that this Treylon Burks thing is fascinating. He didn't show a ton before he got injured. He got injured. We haven't seen from him, but he came in and he played very well. He had that 1 big catch, but has been a part of this offense, and I do think that he could be maybe a key role player at the very least for the Titans down the stretch.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a possibility if he can continue to create these big plays. I mean, that was something he was really known for in college. I mean, he was a bizarre college prospect because we were a bit lower on him than most, but it was like he would basically like just take these screen passes and then run for touchdowns in Arkansas's offense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, okay, how exactly does this translate to the NFL? I mean, there have been guys that are yak machines that kind of just, are really good running after the catch, but it just seemed bizarre to like expect this to work. And if he's able to create these big plays against NFL defenses, then yeah, he's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think so as well. Final thoughts on this one. We have Joe Barry is a joke, shouldn't be a DC. That's in the chat. Joe Barry has to be fired, right?
Well, they can't go into next season with no changes. So yeah, I think they have to make something change.
Yeah, they think that's, one, the fans will probably be able to get behind, 2. So there you go. Let's talk some Raiders, why don't we? For the 6 Raiders fans who are still hanging around, that are still paying attention to football at this point. Hey, Davante Adams is good.
Davante Adams is good. The stars in this Raiders team showed up. He was awesome. Max Crosby is an unbelievable football player. I'm going to say this all the time. I don't even care. This defense is not very good. And he was a one-man wrecking crew in this game too. And, I think that we did that 25 and under podcast in the offseason, and people thought I was crazy for drafting him after our quarterbacks. This guy is unbelievable. This guy is one of the best defensive players in football. I thought he was a one-man wrecking crew in this game. And then on offense, it just seemed like they finally said, okay, let's work on trying to scheme Davante Adams open downfield. And it worked. It actually worked. Unbelievable when you try and get your best player open opportunities. It definitely pays dividends for your offense.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Again, it's very funny. I mean, the Raiders, I do think if you're a Raiders fan, you feel good about the Devontae Adams trade. It's just so weird how that was the big storyline heading into this year. It totally worked and everything else is falling apart. Oh no, hey, they're 3-7. All they got to do is win 7 more. That's maybe playoffs. Yeah, but you're right. He was great. 141 yards and 2 touchdowns was the final score. He had the game winner in overtime where he then waved to the crowd. Josh Jacobs. Jacobs is, that guy's had a long career. He's, going to be a free agent after this. He could get some money for running back. That's interesting to see how that'll go.
Yeah, I mean, they declined his 5th-year option, right? So they gave them this opportunity, and I think he's been okay this season for the most part. I think he's had some really terrific games, and he was good in this one. So yeah, I mean, he has an opportunity to kind of bet on himself and win himself some money in a payday. It'll be interesting to see what the free agent market looks like for a young running back like that.
Yeah. As for Denver, there's things to like about their team. They have a very good defense, some pieces on offense. If they could just get the quarterback down, I think they'd be all right.
If only they address the quarterback issue in the offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what is I'm not that I like to quote Nick Wright on a lot of football talk, but isn't there something that, like, if they scored like 20 points at one point in regular season games, they'd be like 9-1? Like, it's just a bizarre season for them.
Well,
They
this
can't
is
win.
another one that they would have won if they had 20 points.
Yeah, I mean, I say they can't win these close games. All 3 of their wins are basically by 4. 2 of them are by 4 points or less. So just a bizarre season for them. I mean, have we ever seen a team that basically everything's a one-score game? They have one game this season that isn't a one-score game, and it was their first loss to the Raiders. They lost 32-23.
Yeah, and I was looking at that's also the only time that's the only time this defense has given up more than 20 points. So like you said, so this defense is like the 2015 Denver Broncos, and the offense can't even be that offense.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's so bizarre. I can't believe this Denver team. Like, I still feel like I continue to say this. I still feel like I was on the right side of this when I said I like Denver in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I said about their defense turning around, it really did turn around and it's having a terrific year. We were just expecting a little bit more from this offense and Russell Wilson that we're not getting at all.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. This is, absolutely wild. Do the Raiders and the Broncos play in the most amount of teams that have disappointed us bowls every year? I feel like in the past 10 years, that's been the most like competitive games, not trash teams, but also like not games you really have to watch.
Yeah, those. I mean, the AFC West as a whole, because you got to throw the Chargers in that conversation too with some of their. I mean, didn't they have the season where they had like the positive scoring differential or something, but like missed the playoffs or something weird? They've had some weird seasons.
Well, I mean, they had the year that the Chargers back in 2008 when they finished first in total offense and defense and missed the playoffs.
That's it. That was the one I was thinking of. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely in that conversation too. They've had some bizarre seasons.
Yeah, I think so. Interesting stuff. Let's move on. We have 5 more games to get to. Let's talk about the Bengals Steelers. This was a fun game. It ended up being. I thought Kenny Pickett played solid in this one. I mean, again, we talked about last year being the quarterback draft. Kenny Pickett's certainly playing better than some of those guys did their rookie year. So again, still imperfect, still a rookie, still has room to grow, of course. But I thought some of the issues of the offense weren't really his fault. We saw George Pickens get thrown out of a game, so check that off your bingo card for this season. This was a very fun game, but really I thought Joe Burrow was awesome in this one. He has 2 interceptions on the stat sheet. Those were not his fault. One of them was TJ Watt intercepting it at the line. I don't know what you do about that. That's just like, I don't know. It's like getting attacked by a shark or something. Like, it feels like it just happens to you. And then, the other one was a tip pass as well. Other than that, I mean, no Jamar Chase, no problems. T. Higgins, 148 yards in this one. And, P. Ryan had a couple of good catches. And 3 of them went for touchdowns, in fact. 4 receptions for 3 touchdowns. So, Joe Burrow showing why why he's one of the greats right now. Or one of the, at
One of
least
the
very
best.
good.
Yeah, one of the
Mhm.
best in the league for sure.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, I still think he's definitely in the MVP conversation for me. But he's not number one, but he's definitely in the conversation, I think, right now. Yeah, I mean, this Bengals
If he didn't
offense
have to
was
play the Steelers, he'd be number one probably.
yeah, it's so bizarre that he has 5 interceptions against the Steelers, right? Like, and I think 2 the rest of the season or something like that. So he's been very good. I mean, the big thing for me with Pickett, once again, he has guys to throw to. Like Deontay Johnson wasn't even that great in this game, or wasn't really that involved in this game. He only had 4 catches for 20 yards, but like Pickens is an absolute stud. Fryermuth, I think, is a very good tight end. And then you got guys like Johnson, who on any given night can go off too because he is such a good route runner. So this offense for the Steelers, I think, is coming into form a little bit, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, I mean, they couldn't get stops in this game, and that's because Joe Burrow was the best maybe the best player on the field this week.
Yeah. No, I think I'm completely on board. Also, I checked out the stats. It's actually even more dramatic than you had it. Joe Burrow has 8 interceptions this season, 6 of them against the Pittsburgh Steelers, only 2 the rest of the way. So, and again, the 2 in this game were not his fault, and not all the 4 it was 4 in the first game. Not all those were his fault either. But still, I mean, it's just kind of crazy to think about. I feel like for this is kind of what both teams wanted to some degree, right? The Bengals offense looks back. The Bengals are able to get stuff going, and then the Steelers, your young quarterback looks solid, but then you also lose. So kind of win-win.
A little bit. I'm sure Mike Tomlin would like to win the games, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think they feel good about the way Pickett has looked the last few weeks. So I think that's something to build upon. This Bengals defense, I do think needs to get healthy.
Hmm.
They lose Awuzie, obviously, which I think is a big thing. But if they can get, a couple guys back, it seems like in the secondary to really help out, I think it might help a little bit. But at the same time, it's still probably playing a rookie back there at corner.
Yeah, and also as someone who I locked up the Bengals this week. I was definitely nervous at times during this game.
Yeah, I mean, you should have been. They were down for good stretches of this game. So
Hmm.
I definitely had my eye on that because, I mean, I don't know if you noticed the calculations. I don't know if you've looked at it. We're tied up, baby.
Are we tied up? I thought it was. So let's see.
Because it
Are we
was
tied?
one. Yeah, because I went
What?
4-2 with one game to play, and you're 4-3. And we both hit our locks.
Let's see. Oh, right. The Saints won. The Saints won this week, or I'm trying to remember.
Saints won.
Yeah, so that's that's the one. We can do this off air, but yeah, that's I think I wrote that wrong on my notes. That's why I got it wrong. So yeah, we're tied. But you still have a game tomorrow, so it's not tied up yet. Can't
We'll
count your
see.
chickens just yet.
Yeah, you're
Well,
right. That knowing me, this will be like a Cardinals blowout or something like that.
right, it's possible. I was hopeful the Chargers could pull out that one, but yeah, I was like this. Jackson's pick to win the AFC, the Bengals laughing emoji. That's not even that's still totally possible.
Yeah, they
I
can
swear,
definitely still
Kyle.
win the AFC.
Yeah, I swear, Kyle. You can't get your break here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, are they better than the Chiefs right now? No. Can they beat the Chiefs? Yeah, anybody can win on any week.
Yeah, they
It
were
happened
5-4 last year too.
Yeah. Literally last year they did the same thing.
Also, someone in the chat says both of you look very cute today. So okay, some bad, some good.
All right. Yeah, thanks.
All right, we covered that game nicely. Let's move on. I guess let's go to the Panthers Ravens. This was a kind of a weird. This is the weirdest game I've ever seen, Kyle. The Ravens had this where their offense, struggled to score points, only 3 points in the first 3 quarters. But like when they had good plays, it was like someone was open by like 100 yards. Like there was no Panther even around, like whoever Lamar was throwing to when they did have stuff open. It was like they were not getting consistency. They were definitely beating themselves at times, and they couldn't run the ball. That's kind of the main thing that Carolina was able to take away. But like when their plays worked, it just seemed like incredibly easy. So I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I feel like once the Ravens kind of finally got going, they were able to kind of coast to the victory at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't a good game for the Ravens, but like it was just bizarre. They went 1 of 4 in the red zone, and that also included they also had an interception at the 29, and they forced a fumble in Carolina territory, took over at the Carolina 41, and then punted the ball a few plays later. So it's just like I don't like they're definitely going to have better games, but yeah, it was bizarre like how poorly they played. But at the same time, they only gave it 3 points, so you can give them some credit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How is Baker Mayfield getting worse every time we see him? Like, what's going on? I don't understand this. In 2 years, he's going to look like Nathan Peterman out there. Like, I don't get how no one's.
Yeah.
He's the Benjamin Button of NFL quarterbacks.
It might be something like that. I don't know
Hmm.
what's going on. Yeah, I mean, he was abysmal. He really was. And I mean, I think someone said it. I think he said in the press conference or something he wasn't good enough. It's like, well, duh. Like,
Right.
thanks,
Yeah.
man. I don't know. I don't know what you had 5.9 yards per pass, and honestly, it's surprising it was that high because it didn't feel that high.
Yeah, two interceptions, no touchdowns in this game for Baker Mayfield. Did have 2 rushes for 6 yards, so there you go. Not much going in the ground game in this one. Again, Ravens defense did play well. We've seen the Ravens defense do this a few times where they've looked very good. I don't know how much credit we give them to them for beating the Panthers, but hey, you know, Panthers not great. They're scoring more than 3 every game, so you still have to give them some credit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's definitely not a good win, but at the same time, a win is a win. You look good at parts of the game. You definitely look good, like you said. You look good defensively. I think they got to address some things in this off. Like, I don't know if I'd put Baltimore in the Super Bowl conversation right now. That's my thing. Um, that's like that's basically how I feel. I think it's a good team, but I've just seen too many games where they kind of look like they were asleep at the wheel. I don't see this team beating Kansas City on the road or beating Buffalo or beating Miami.
Interesting. I think I would put them in the same conversation as Buffalo and Miami. Again, maybe matchup wise, like Buffalo, that could be an issue. But I think Kansas City clearly stands alone at the top of the AFC right now. I think. But to me, I don't know. I thought you could look at some bad Ravens games, but you can look at some bad Buffalo games and even some bad Dolphins games. I think.
Yeah, and I know they play both of those teams down to the wire, and that Dolphins game was weird, but I just feel like there's enough evidence that like I feel like the ceiling of what I've seen from the Dolphins and Bills is higher than what I've seen of the Ravens this season.
I think that's probably fair. I think I would agree with that. I still feel like their passing attack isn't exactly what you would like to see, but I think they could again. They should have beaten the Dolphins. I mean they completely blew that one. And if Marlon
Yeah,
Humphrey stays healthy, they probably do beat the Dolphins in pretty pretty handedly.
probably, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like at times like we've seen some brilliant Lamar Jackson games, but like, is there anything else about the Ravens that feels like it's legit? Like this is a
Um,
legitimately great part of this team.
I still think their defense is good. I know their defense has been spotty, but I think the defense is good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good defense, but I don't know if it's going to be good enough to stop some of those teams. I don't know. I want to see more of this team because I just feel like, especially, it feels like they've been sleepwalking the last 4 weeks, even though they won all 4 games. It just looks like it's an unconvincing 4 wins.
Yeah, it might be.
And if we're going to judge Minnesota that way harshly, I feel like we also have to trust, judge a team like the Ravens, who I think we hold to a higher esteem and give a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. I think we also have to give them a little bit of judgment for that too.
Well, but we've seen Baltimore have better. We haven't seen this Minnesota team do much. We've seen Baltimore, I guess, not have success in the playoffs, but we've seen them at least get to the playoffs a lot.
Yeah, like I said, we give them the benefit of the doubt because we've seen it from them before.
Hmm.
But I just think the last 4 weeks, it seems like they've been asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, it's possible, but I mean, again, I still do think that you can kind of say, my point is that I think that every team in the AFC other than the Chiefs have shown they're human.
That's fair.
So that's kind of my thing is I think that the other contenders are just kind of a little bit lower. Maybe that's more of the argument. But let's go on. Let's talk about one of those other teams, the Bills here, who win the football game against the Browns. It's another game that for a second was looking a little like, is this going to go the other way? I mean, this could have been a big collapse potentially for the Bills. Brissett got off to a hot start in this one, still ended up with good statistics in this one. Nick Chubb with a very weird stat line of 14 carries for 19 yards. So that's not great. Mark Cooper had some really good catches in this one. That's kind of what allowed the Browns to be able to get stuff going. But eventually, Bill's offense kind of came back to being what it was. Stephon Diggs didn't do a lot, but then his first catch of the day was a touchdown that kind of propelled this team. So, I feel a good win for the Bills. Looked like could have been a little bit hairy early on, but they were able to pull off the win.
Yeah, it was pretty bizarre because it was wide open on that play. It really made no sense. And this Bills offense was really struggling up until that point. And it seems like as soon as he caught the touchdown, they got going a little bit and it lit a fire a bit under them because then they went and scored on their next 5 possessions to end the game, basically. A lot of it was field goals, but they still moved the ball and got the ball downfield a little bit. Is this Josh Allen elbow thing like seem like it might be a problem?
I have no idea. I mean, I feel like this happens sometimes where like it's like someone has an injury. Like the Baker Mayfield last year was like the whole thing of like how much of it is the injury, how much of it isn't. I never know with this stuff. It's totally a guessing game.
It is. I mean, I don't know because it was reported this was a thing. I mean, I know that they dealt with some weird circumstances with the storm and all that, dealing with all that. But yeah, I mean, I know the reports on that elbow was that it's a it's painful and it's hurting his ability to throw the ball. All of a sudden, he was able to play that game. He was able to play in this game. But I don't know, like Jacoby Brissett was the better quarterback in this game,
Hmm.
and I mean. I don't think Jacoby Brissett's better than Josh Allen as a whole. He was better in this game, and it just seems like that there seems to be something off with this Bills offense lately.
Yeah,
For a team that scored 31, I think I have some questions.
right. No, it does feel weird to say, but I think you're right. I think that there were some. It's still it's definitely not looking as great as it has looked at times. But again, that's kind of just the Bills, right? They're not a consistent. They're not the most consistent team, but they have maybe the highest upside out of any team.
Yeah. Speaking of upside and inconsistency, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I feel like every time I watch him play, the only time he catches the ball is when it's like the most ridiculous catch I've ever seen in my life.
Uh-huh.
Like he just makes like otherworldly catches. It's unbelievable. I don't know how he keeps doing it. Just wanted to
Yeah.
point that out.
No, yeah, and yeah, and hey, Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's been a nice pickup for the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, who knew a star receiver would really help a team? Cowboys are now like basically knocking on OBJ's door when they had a guy in the building. Yeah, he's put together a really nice season. He's been really good. I'm interested to see how he looks with Watson here coming up.
Yeah, only one more game without that for Cleveland. So for better or worse, there you go. 2 games left. Balls Texans. This was a football game that played. Both teams played 60 minutes of football on a field. Kyle, your thoughts?
Um, I mean, this was a pretty easy lock for me. I got this one right on the money.
Yeah, Davis Mills had a rough day.
A rough day is putting it nicely. Outside of a couple Brandon Cooks catches,
Hmm.
3 catches for 70 yards. Outside of a couple Brandon Cooks plays, I mean, that's so 3 of his catches were on 70 yards to Brandon Cooks, and one of them was a long catch and run. So he basically didn't have to do a whole lot to that. He had 99 yards on 16 completions besides that? That's bad.
Not great. Yeah. The 2 interceptions as well don't help with things. Damian Pierce, 10 carries for 8 yards. So also not great there for the Texans. I mean, I guess we have to ask the question, is Washington legit? I mean, they're 6-5 here. Like, yes, it's the Texans, but they, dominated the Texans pretty handedly. They beat the, Eagles. They played the Vikings tough. It was a weird game. It probably shouldn't have been as close as the score indicated, but still, they played them tough. They're on a bit of a roll here.
Yeah.
Looking at this, with Taylor Heineke once again, they're now 4-1 with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. They're playing the Falcons next week, and then they play the Giants actually back-to-back games. It's one of those weird. They played them bye week and then played them again. So there's a very real chance this team could be, the NFC East has such an easy schedule. It's not out of the question. This could be like a 9-5 team coming up.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Because I mean, like, I don't know. Like the Texans are definitely bad. I'm not going to say anything different. They're 1-8-1, but we've seen them compete with teams, and this game wasn't even as close as the 23-10 scoreline indicated. Like Washington dominated this game. I think Washington's good. I mean, let's put it. Do I think they're like an NFC contender? No. But at the same time, when I look at these teams and we talk about these sad franchises who might make the 7 seed, we would talk about, Atlanta potentially. We talk about Giants potentially. We talk about Detroit maybe sneaking in there or someone along that lines, or maybe Arizona, whatever it is. I think this team's better than all of those teams. That's for sure. I think they'd beat all of those teams basically. So yeah, I definitely think they could make the playoffs and do something interesting. I'm not betting on it because I don't think they have a great quarterback, but they're winning football games and they're doing it in their style.
Yeah, which, hey, Heineke's played in a playoff game before, so who knows?
Yeah.
Elijah said in the chat, apparently the Texans average 8.6 inches per play in the first half. Yeah, so there's very funny John Boy, or is it Bois tweet, who tweeted out the Texans are averaging 8.6 inches per play in the first half, and then said did enough, I guess, like periods entering it down, so that the size of the tweet was roughly the same amount of yardage the Texans were getting per play in the first half.
That's brutal.
Usually not great if your yards per play can be done in a tweet.
Well, I think it was also like the Jets had 2 inches per play in the second half.
Yeah, not great.
That is not great, Bob, at all. But yeah, I mean, this is a bad Texans team. I think they need to, is Lovie Smith going to be one and done? Like, probably, right?
Yeah, probably.
Do we care? Like, I don't know. Like, this is almost embarrassing that this team's just going to keep doing this over and over again, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is tough. Part of it is they were in such a bad spot once Watson left. I feel like they're slowly moving in the right direction.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I don't, like, how is this team going to have fans left? Honestly, like,
If they start winning, they'll get fans. They're playing Houston. They'll be all right.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I know we say you can turn around quickly in the NFL, but in 2020 they were 4-12, and I mean, probably a little fortunate to be 4-12. And
Mhm.
Watson was amazing in that season. They were 4-13 last season, and kind of fortunate to be 4-13 last season.
Mhm.
And I mean, they're probably going 1-14-1 or whatever it is this year. Like, how many get 1-15-1? How many seasons do you think it's going to take for this Texans franchise to be competitive? Right now, I know it's quick to turn around the NFL. You can hit on free agency, hit on the draft, but it feels like it's a good 5 years away from this team being anything.
Well, there's a good quarterback situation, right? They have a lot of draft capital. It's supposed to be a good quarterback draft heading up. So you get a quarterback, you could be good in 2 years.
Yeah, I'm not high on this quarterback class.
Okay, well, from what I hear, there's a good quarterback class. I mean, it always comes down to the quarterback, right? I mean, if you can't get the good quarterback, doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, they had a great quarterback and they went 4-12 2 years ago.
Sure,
And
but
this roster might be worse than 2 years ago.
possibly. But I mean, we said similar things about the Bengals, right, before they got Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, I
It
guess.
wasn't this bad. They're in a tough spot. I'm just saying there is a way out of it. They have draft capital to make it work.
Yeah, we'll see. It seems like it's still a long road ahead. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean they're in a tough spot. I don't think anyone's denying that.
Yeah. So, tough days for the Texans.
Yeah. Also tough days for these two teams. I guess the Saints are still technically in into contention at 4-7. The Rams lose here and drop to 3-7. Saints Rams. This was again it was weird because it was a close game, but it still feels like it deserves to be the last game we talk about here. I don't know how many people were being paid too close attention. We did see some good Matt Stafford plays in this one. It was almost like, oh, is Matt Stafford back? And then here comes Bryce Perkins in this one to come in. The Saints are able to get a comeback and pull off this victory with, we saw Andy Dalton actually end up with over 10 yards per attempt in this one. So, I don't know if we had a lot of it was they had a big Chris Olave catch for touchdown. That was a big chunk play. So he's still been very good. I mean, he's been definitely the bright spot of the Saints team, but as a whole, two teams maybe not moving in the right direction.
No, definitely not. But like you said, maybe Stafford need to get away from Cooper Kupp for a little bit. And I don't know. He had some big plays in this game, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Tutu Atwell, look at that guy.
Right.
Had the big touchdown. Allen Robinson had some moments. Maybe you need to get away from Kupp to be able to see, oh, wait, I have other guys on the field. That'll help. So, yeah, I mean, the Rams were able to scheme up. I think McVay, I think some of it has been deserved. I think he's gotten some criticism this season because, for a guy who was heralded as an offensive guru, he hasn't really been able to figure this out. I think they schemed a little bit of stuff until Stafford got hurt.
Yeah, it's hard to really blame him too much for that. Also, I have to say, I'm looking at the box score now. Google has Tutu Atwell as Shatarius Atwell. I mean, what are we doing here, Google?
Is that a new name change or something? I didn't realize.
I don't think so. I think Google just gets it wrong sometimes.
Okay, well,
I guess it's Shatarius Tutu Atwell. He's Tutu Atwell. He is not. No one's ever called him. It's Chatarius Atwell.
that's bizarre. Speaking of bizarre. This has got to be the most bizarre season I've seen from a quarterback when I'm looking at Andy Dalton, because he's
Right.
had games like, so he was 20 of 28 in his first game against Minnesota for 236 and a touchdown. Pretty good game, 70% completion percentage. Against the Raiders, 22 of 30, 229, two touchdowns, 73% completion percentage. Pretty good. This one, 21 of 25, 260, three touchdowns, 84% completion. But then he also has like the Bengals game where he's 17 to 32, 162 yards. He has the Arizona game where I actually think his numbers are okay, but he threw back-to-back pick sixes.
Hmm.
It's just a very, very weird season. I mean, we literally had Jameis Winston like almost crying in a press conference this week because he can't get on the field and he felt like he lost his job because he got hurt. And then all of a sudden, Andy Dalton's awesome again.
Maybe is that what Andy Dalton needs? He just needs more people crying.
I don't know.
Given some of the Cincinnati teams, I mean, he was teammates with Vontaze Perfect. I'm sure there's plenty of crying going on during those years.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Chris Olave continues to have an awesome season too.
Yeah, that's been a bright spot for the Saints. Saints are another team though. Like we're talking about the Texans being in a tough spot. Saints feel like they're in a really tough spot, right? I mean, no first round pick this next upcoming draft. So you might as well try and win. I guess it would help your second round draft stock. I don't know how much you care about that. Might as well go for it. But it's been tough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could still say I still think this defense is good. And then like you can definitely fault them for not having their pick next year, but the guy they traded up and drafted is good. So it's not like it was like a way. It's not a trading for Laramie Tunsil situation. Although Tunsil's good too, but
Yeah.
they drafted a rookie who's good.
Sure, that definitely that works. That helps, but still, I mean, as much as I've liked Chris Olave, you told me you'd rather have him, or would you trade him for a top 5 pick, which it might end up being? That you know becomes a question. Certainly, he has played very well though, so I think you're right. I think that the thing really is probably maybe just trade up, draft Chris Olave, and don't get Trevor Penning, but that also might be hindsight bias.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. So like we talk about this team, and yes, they traded the draft capital this year, but like say we this is a world of hypotheticals. So let's just play the hypothetical game a little bit. If Aaron Rodgers is available for this offseason, the Saints go get Aaron Rodgers. That's a legitimately good team next year, right?
I
Like
think you could say that about. I think the Texans would be a good team if they get Aaron Rodgers. I think that a great
I don't
quarterback
th-
helps your team.
I don't think they'd be a good team next year.
Well,
I think
okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think the Saints would be a legitimately good team with some couple tweaks. I think they're a couple tweaks away from being potentially good again. I think the
I mean,
Texans
I think
need
one of
like
those
20
tweaks is
players.
going out and getting a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think that's more than a tweak.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, even if they like traded up and got Bryce Young next year, and Bryce Young's awesome out of the gate as a quarterback, or at least he's pretty good out of the gate as a quarterback, I think that could change a lot of this team too. But like, I don't know. I feel like the Texans need about 18 starters, where I think the Saints need like 3 or 4.
Sure, maybe the Texans is a bit. I'm just saying a lot of teams would be very good with. I think you could say that about I don't know at least 25 teams that you get Aaron Rodgers or a quarterback of that caliber. You're doing all right. I think that again you say Bryce Young. How are they going to get him? They have no they have to give up a lot of draft capital to trade up to do that.
Well, they trade, future first. I don't know.
I guess so, but I mean, if we're playing a tough game, they also don't have a ton of cap space too. So I think,
Yeah.
listen, I think they went all in. They did the right move, going all in their championship window, and now I think that they're kind of suffering some of the consequences.
Yeah. I guess the one thing would be like this could potentially get worse before it gets better. That's for sure.
Right. That's kind of what I think. They've been kind of pushing off this rebuild. I think they just need to have a year of kind of just tear it down, and then you're all right. I mean, they still owe Jameis Winston $11 million next year. I mean, and they still owe him $8 million the following year. They keep kicking the can down the road. These are kind of the issues they're in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could look at it as like, I mean, I don't know what you do with Michael Thomas at this point, but they have guys with tradable capital too. If they wanted to get back in the first round or something, they could trade a Lattimore, they could trade a Demario Davis, they could trade one of those defensive ends. There are ways they could rebuild and build some of that capital back up.
I don't know. A lot of these contracts, though, most of these ones, I'm looking at like all their top contracts. Most of them have a lot of dead cap, so they would have to. Someone would have to be willing to take on a lot of cap space, which maybe you could do for like a Lattimore, but that puts you in a tough spot.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But again, it was the right decision in the first place. Just that's kind of just where they're at.
Go
right
for
now.
the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna ask the Rams. Like, it could have totally worked out the other way, where the Rams don't get it and the Saints do get it. But the process was the same, and the Rams even went more all in. So there you go. Yeah. Kyle, that's your show.
That is our show. Good week of football. I think that there's some good games.
Yeah, I think so. Again, quality over quantity this week.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Not every game can be the great Jets Patriots game.
No, not everything can be that fun. How are you feeling about the U.S. tomorrow?
I think we're gonna. So I know nothing about it, but this is their year. U.S. is gonna take it home.
All the way, we're winning the whole thing, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Plus 15,000. I saw the odds, so that's honestly better than I thought it would be.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to watch this U.S. team. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what they can do. Worst case scenario is they don't get out the group and the coach gets fired, which is okay with me too. So,
yeah, I saw that. For what I looked at it in my about 5 minutes of just researching it while I was bored. I think during commercial today during one of the games. I just saw that there's two teams in our little division thing. I don't know the terms. Who have lower odds than we do of winning it all. So I feel good that we can at least get it out of this first round.
Yeah, I mean, we should get out of the group. I think Wales is a good team, but we should be able to either get a point on Wales tomorrow or potentially win the game. I think we have a better team than Wales. The question is beyond Wales, if the season will be the World Cup will be defined immediately, because if we lose to Wales, we're basically done. Because then we got to play England, and that's a tough one. I think if we can get a point,
that's not tough. America beating England is what we do, Kyle.
I mean, we tied them last time. That was fun. But
I'm making a history joke, but that's besides the point.
They kind of got us back in 1812. It's okay.
Hey, we're Americans here. We're very selective about our history. All right, Kyle.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think if we get a point at Wales, it makes things interesting because we should beat Iran, and then anything against England is gravy at that point.
Yeah, here's a good idea. So let's take it this way, because I am a soccer noob, right? But okay. I am willing to learn. So maybe for the last couple minutes of the show, I'm sure there's plenty of people like me who are not really into soccer, but are willing to get interested. I'm interested in the World Cup and all the craziness going on here. I think it could be fun. Give me the elevator pitch on why I should watch.
Well, it's the world's biggest tournament, so obviously you should watch. And I'm not like a soccer expert; I just watch it a lot. But it's the world's biggest tournament, and there's legitimate stars on. Basically, if you go through every group, there's legitimate stars in every group. Some groups are a little bit worse than others, but there are some really good teams and really fun teams. And even some of the lower level teams are the most fun teams to watch. If you go back to the Euros a few years ago, there was an Iceland run that was really fun, and that team was not made up of any stars whatsoever. There's a couple teams in this tournament, I think, as a whole. If you look at a team like potentially like a Serbia, like a team like I'm going through the list here quickly, like a Japan, that play a very fun brand of soccer that I think is fun to watch, even though they're not like star-laden teams. So I definitely think there's that. And then you have your stars. You have your Lionel Messi's. You have, there's plenty of guys on the England team. There's plenty of guys on the, your Ronaldo, even though nobody likes him on his club team anymore. He's still, a legend in his national team. And then you have guys, Brazil. I think this might be the best Brazil team maybe since the last time they won. This is probably the best chance Neymar has to win a World Cup. I think this is going to be a really fun Brazil team to watch this season. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a fun sport, and the best brand of soccer can be really fun to watch.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm interested about is kind of, listen, I view this from an American lens, right? I want to hear the American type storyline. So I know like one of the storylines I'm fascinated by is Messi, who is, I believe, 37, my understanding is around there. Playing in what will probably be the last World Cup he plays in where he's a significant contender. Maybe he could hang around, but it seems like this is going
I
to be
think
his
he said
last.
it's his last one. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So kind of his last chance to win one here. He's never won one. Feels like that's a huge storyline going in.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Him and Ronaldo, it seems like it's going to be their last ones, but Ronaldo,
Where does Ronaldo play?
Portugal. So
Okay.
Ronaldo is an interesting one because he's had this whole thing with his Manchester United club that he's not playing. We don't know how good he's going to be in this tournament. He's a little more washed than Messi, that's for sure. This Argentina team is very good. They were very good throughout qualifying stages. The only thing that was Brazil was way better. Brazil went undefeated in qualifying stages to qualify for the World Cup. So I think this Argentina team has a legitimate shot. The question I have for Argentina is, can they find the defense? It seems like it's a question every year for them at the World Cup. Can they find the defense necessary to prevent enough goals? That eventually was their problem against France in 2018, was Mbappe was kind of able to run rampant on them. Can they find the guys to get a couple stops in this game? Allow their, because it's not even just Messi. They have 4 or 5 incredible attacking talents on that Argentina team. But that is a fun storyline. This Messi's last ride. I think it's also something where Ronaldo's last ride. A couple other interesting storylines. Denmark. Denmark's a really fun storyline this year. I'll tell you about Denmark. Top 10 team in the world. Their best player, Christian Eriksen, almost had to retire from the game because he had a heart condition. He had a heart condition on the field. Basically had to take a year off. He's back now. He's been able to figure his thing out. He's been playing in club. He's been very good. This Denmark team is very good too. I think they're a sleeper in this tournament. So a lot of fun storylines, I think, at this World Cup.
Wow, yeah, a lot of good stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing all of that. So yeah, I'm gonna keep up. I'm gonna try to watch the US, see if US can win it all. I think a lot of people. I believe everyone's expecting them to pick everyone's picking US as dark horse contender to win the World Cup. Kyle, what's your pick? Who's winning?
I have my pick is Brazil to beat Uruguay.
Terrible take. It's Argentina's year. It's like Ray Lewis in his last year with the Ravens.
I have Brazil beating Argentina in the semifinals, just like they did multiple times in qualifying. Brazil just seems like a buzzsaw right now. It's hard to pick against this Brazilian team. It's one of the most complete Brazilian teams we've seen in a long time. I think Uruguay is an interesting team because they've always had a great defense, and they've had Luis Suarez and Edison Cavani, which is great strikers. But they got this kid he's 23, so he's not a kid. Darwin Nunez, he's another part of this. They got Federico Valverde too. So if those guys really step up with their defense, with Suarez and Cavani providing some goals, I think that could be a really good team. U.S. is going to be interesting. They're the second youngest team at the World Cup. This has been a team that we've talked about for a while. U.S. has seemed like a team that's been built for 2026 when they're hosting the World Cup. It's the second youngest team. But that being said, they got some real guys who are playing some big minutes and being big contributors overseas at their club level. And I don't think they're going to be afraid of anyone. They're playing on the national stage against some of the best players in the world week in, week out. The one thing for U.S. is, can they find a goal scorer? Because the striker position is a problem for them this season. They haven't really been able to address it on the national team level. If they can find a goal scorer, they can be very good.
Okay, well let's go US. Let's root for the home team.
I'm rooting for it.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I feel like maybe with Ted Lasso, I think maybe it'll get more attention this year.
Yeah, that's true. Ted Lasso has definitely brought it seems like every couple of years we have a new thing that gets people hooked on soccer. Whether it's FIFA, whether it's a couple of the World Cups every 4 years or stuff like that. Ted Lasso is the newest thing getting people on soccer.
Yeah, I think when they host in 4 years, that could also help. So soccer's growing in America. Kind of cool to see.
It is. It's been fun. We need to get our club teams better. We need to get a better infrastructure, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Oh my God, I went to an Orlando City game, which I know was that's just the most miserable experience in my life. That's not true. It was actually a lot of fun to go. Great atmosphere, but just like it was a 1-0 game where the opposing team just flopped the whole second half.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good MLS teams, but the cohesion's a little different.
Yeah. But anyway,
that's a conversation for another time. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I expect the viewership to drop more than it did. It dropped a little, but not too bad there. Probably should have done our plugs before that, though. But anyways, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your audio only feed, check out On the Sideline podcast. That should be available. Kyle, let them know where you can find us on Twitter.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grana, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK.
Yes. Yeah. Kyle, any final thoughts?
No. Let's go US. US tomorrow morning at, I think it's at noon Centrals.
I thought it was 2. Oh, noon Central. So I thought it was 2 Eastern is what I saw, but I could be wrong.
I got 1 p.m. Oh, is it 1 p.m. Central?
1 Central.
So yeah, so 2 Eastern, 1 Central, and then Monday Night Football. That should be a good one too. NFC West is weird. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, good sports day. Some soccer to watch while you work, and then some football when you get off. Should be fun. Yeah. Again, thank you to everybody for watching along. We do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.